Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this portion of the Monmouth Film Festival. My name is Bryan DeNovellis, and for the next 45 minutes, I will be your moderator with this, my esteemed colleagues here, these professionals who have been in the film and television industry for a number of years, and it's my pleasure to be here tonight and hopefully answer some of your questions and have them share a lot of their experiences with you, because there's a wealth of experience here on the stage, from acting to directing to producing and writing, and a lot of things that probably a lot of you out there want to do or have done with your lives. So I will start to introduce them one by one. We'll start with my left over here.
My name is David Schoner. I am the Associate Director of the New Jersey Motion Picture and Television Commission. We're actually a state agency that coordinates filmmaking in New Jersey. We try to attract filmmaking to New Jersey and also help filmmakers that are here. To keep myself creatively sane on the side, I also am an independent film producer. I've actually produced two feature films that have actually gone into distribution. I've been at my job since 1985, so I've been doing it for quite some time.
Hi, my name is Dani Tenenbaum. I'm a film director, and alongside Stacey, we have a small production company in New York called Wee Woo Productions.
Hi, I'm Stacey Maltin. I'm a writer, I'm a producer, a director, and actor. We just finished our first feature film, and I've got other features I've produced and short films, and I'm developing a bunch of other projects.
You can keep that.
Hey everybody, I'm Mark Ehrenkranz. I'm a recovering producer. Recently I've been producing the New York Film Critics Series with Peter Travers of Rolling Stone magazine, where we show movies before they're released. We shoot the whole event with the cast, stars, producers, directors, and then broadcast that into theaters across the country, 65, 70 theaters, so that people have access around the country, not only in New York or Los Angeles. You can be in Cincinnati or San Diego and get to see Danny Collins and then hear from Al Pacino and ask him questions. So it's a new concept. It's sort of on the coattails of what the Metropolitan Opera and National Theater and others are doing in movie theaters, Fathom Events you may have heard of. But this is the only one of its kind where we get to debut independent movies from movies that matter, smart filmmakers, hopefully things that you've seen, things like Loving and Moonlight and Manchester by the Sea, La La Land, and get to hear from the filmmakers. So that's my most recent project, but I think I've done just about everything besides be an agent or work for a movie studio. So from being in the Directors Guild as a young guy, working in television, producing movies, distribution, film sales, being a producer's rep. So I've kind of done a little bit of everything. Thank you.
Hello, my name is John Green. I'm a television executive producer at ABC News. I've been at ABC for 22 years. I do mostly news content, documentary, long-form programming, but spent 14 years running Good Morning America. And I'm really happy that I don't have to wake up at 3:30 in the morning anymore. In addition to the news and documentary work, I do a lot of entertainment specials for the ABC network, and I also run a production company with Robin Roberts, the anchor of Good Morning America.
Hi, my name is Ernest Mingione. I'm an actor. I did have a straight life at one time, and I came home. I was about 35 years old. I told my wife I want to be an actor, and here I am, 25 years later.
Living the dream. Now, for those of you who were fortunate enough to see some of the short films earlier, you recognized Ernest, Eddie the Hitman over here in the movie Parents of the Groom. If you haven't had a chance to see it, and you will, and you do, it's a dark comedy, very funny, very funny. So here we are. Before we open it up to questions, I guess we want the audience to participate in this. I do want to say that everyone's always looking for their start, and coming from the sports broadcasting industry, you know, not everyone can, you know, be like, let's say, Joe Buck. Okay, Joe Buck is extremely talented. Obviously, his father helped him get in the business. But once he did it, he rose to the top very quickly because of his talent. So for people who may not have those in the business, or you're looking for a start, the question is, how do you get that start? How do you get noticed? Ernest, you were in the courts. You were telling me that you were a police officer, right? You were in the courts, and suddenly you wanted to become an actor. Well, how do you become an actor at 35?
I went to school, would submit myself through Backstage, got on independent films, thank you guys, and got on some TV shows, mainstream, and continue to grow from there. But you have to constantly promote yourself and submit yourself whenever you can. Actors Access now. For me, it was easier. There was Backstage. If you had the discipline to put your resume on your headshot, mail it out, you got an audition. Now it's tough. You hit a button, and so does 40,000 other people do the same thing. So, but good luck. Keep going.
Stacey and Dani, so you're trying to get your film out there. You know, how do you've done it from both sides, right? Acting and directing.
Yeah.
So how did you get noticed as an actress, or going into directing and trying to distribute? How do you get noticed?
Well, I've been acting since I was a little kid, and I went to NYU in the drama program there, and I started producing when I was there because there was this show I really wanted to do, and I realized that no one else was going to do it if I didn't do it. So I said, okay, I want to do this show, and I started thinking, what do I need to do to make that happen? And in the very limited resources that we had, we ended up putting on this show. And then I met Dani, and he was in the film program. He was in Israel at the time, and I started really loving film and working in film, and realizing that I didn't want to just act and wait for other people to create projects that I was interested in. I wanted to actually see those projects happening, and the biggest part of it is just deciding that you're going to do it, and you do it. That's really the best advice I can say there, because everybody will tell you no and not to, and there's not enough money, but write a script that's producible. That's, I think, the biggest thing. Is I really love writing, and I said, okay, what can I write that I can make? Where can I realistically find investors and raise the money for this film? And I said, okay, what's the lowest amount of money I can do this for and still turn out a good product? And how do I write my script? Where do I change things so I know that this will still look good, and I'm not going to write a movie that's, $100 million. It's going to be $100,000. And you make it happen, and then you start going out to all your resources, and you bring together the right people to make those things happen. But it's sort of a balance of knowing what you have and how to utilize those things to make a good product, and then you show people that you've made a good product.
I think what I'm hearing is from everyone, drive. I mean, if this is your dream, I think you truly want to follow it. I can't tell you how many times I've heard the word no, and someone saying, look, you're not ready, or no, thanks, but no, and you keep going, right? How many times have you said no, but yet you try to just say, yeah, but all it takes is one person, right?
Next.
Absolutely.
And you were doing music videos at 14, Mark.
Yeah.
That's not normal.
I'm not normal. So when I was 14 years old, I grew up in West Orange, New Jersey. There was this recording studio that was being built in the area, and there was this whole political to-do that the town didn't want drugs and rockers in the area, but it finally got done. And I got on my bicycle and rode down there because, I went to rock shows, and I felt close to talent and the business. I'm kidding. I was, didn't have a clue. So I rode my bicycle down there, and I knocked on the door, and I got a job just, schlepping equipment and moving things around. The second time I went down there, I brought my dad's regular 8 camera, and I began to shoot the rehearsals and when they were recording things. And I had no idea who these guys were, but it was Kool and the Gang from Jersey City, New Jersey, who recorded the songs Celebrate and Ladies' Night, which are played at every bar mitzvah and wedding and everywhere in the world. And then also a band called Meatloaf that made this album called Bad Outta Hell. You know, I was 14. What did I know? I was listening to WABC radio, you know? And I shot this stuff on a regular 8 camera, which had no sound at the time. Super 8 had sound. And I went home and I learned how to splice it together with glue. And then, I don't know, I asked my mom, I heard about this thing called MTV, which was an experiment that American Express and Time Warner were doing in Fort Lee, New Jersey. And so I think, yeah, so you know what I did was I subscribed to the trade magazines. So I think that's a good thing, is to find out what the trade reads, whether it's Variety or Hollywood Reporter or all of these communal industry things where people are talking and offering them jobs, and begin to learn the language of the business and what people are talking about, because every business has its own vocabulary. So to learn things, what does that mean, you know? So, and then I had my mom drive me there to Fort Lee, and I went in with my little regular 8 movies, and they converted it to video, and I had a music video. I didn't know anything about rights or anything. I didn't get any permission, forget it, you know? And I just went in there, and I got my first music video played on MTV when I was 16 years old. And then I paid my way through college, making music videos at the University of Michigan in Ann Arbor with the Romantics and Nicky and the Corvettes and the Infidels, and same thing, moved to LA and music videos. And at that time, it was that was the forerunner of directors and people learning to do things other than commercials, and it became an industry in and of itself, and I was able to make a living at it. And yeah, that was my start.
John Green, I know that I was reading up that even at a young age, you knew you wanted to go into television news.
You know, your story brought me back to even younger than teenage years. When I was 8 or 9 years old, this is before computer age, obviously, I used to sit at my mom's computer and type up a family newspaper called the Green Times. I don't know what possessed me to do. I know, strange kid, right? I'm trying to avoid that kind of nerdiness in my own children, but nevertheless, I do remember, and I still have like these newspapers, and I would write an article about my sister's basketball team or my baseball team, and I even had ads in it. I think I tried to sell myself to make beds for 50 cents a pop. But irony is that I don't think I've ever made a bed in my entire life. Is that right? Yeah. But more to the point, and perhaps to the benefit of the young people in the room, or not so young people in the room that want to break in. When I went to graduate school, and I was getting a degree in communications, I did the internship route, but at a local television station in Boston. But I went old school. And when people ask me, how do you make it in the industry, I go old school. Old school is you never look at your watch. You always volunteer to work weekends, long nights. So I took that internship and I literally raised my hand to work on every blizzard, you know, Boston in the winter. I'll come in on Saturday, I'll come in at 3 in the morning, 4 in the morning, and I got noticed. And then I volunteered to start writing promo copy because they had somebody that had lost their job, and I just went right in, and the next thing I knew, they said, hey kid, you're a pretty good writer, do you want to take a test to be a news writer in our newsroom? And that led to a temporary job as a news writer, and then as a producer, and just to kind of come full circle in what got me to New York. As a kid, I was a fan of Good Morning America growing up. I don't know why. In our house, it wasn't the Today Show, it was Good Morning America. So I got it into my head in my teens and 20s. I was going to work at Good Morning America no matter what happened in my life. But I was out in Missouri, and I didn't know how I was going to make that happen. But once I broke into local TV in Boston, I knew that I had to be that relentless, but not annoying guy that sent his resume to the executive producer of Good Morning America, and I did, and never heard back. And then I did it again 6 months later, and never heard back. And then I did it again 6 months later, and I didn't take no for an answer. I didn't even get no. I got nothing.
Right.
So I got no answer.
At least you want something.
But I figured, maybe my resume is on the top of his desk. Maybe one day he'll clean up the top of his desk and he'll find my resume. I have an easy name to remember, John Green. Maybe he'll look at it. Sure enough, that's what happened. They called me down for an interview for an entry-level producing job. I aced the interview and I got the job offer. So 22 years later, I'm still with ABC. And so it was really just about just kind of believing that if I tried hard enough and volunteered enough and never looked at my watch and asked my manager what time can I leave, that I would eventually get there.
Yeah, and I don't care what age, what generation you come from. I think there's no substitute for the hard work, for saying yes to everything, for working long hours and really paying your dues. And I think in some ways, I think all of you can probably relate to that. You're paying your dues and just trying to get up and do and get noticed. And there's no substitute for that.
Bryan, I just want to add something. I learned early on, there was a coach, Vince Lombardi from New Jersey. He said, if you're on time, you're 10 minutes too late.
From St. Cecilia's in Englewood, New Jersey, as a matter of fact. Right. Yeah, so, and that's why Tom Coughlin of the Giants is you have on time and you have Tom Coughlin time. David, you being somebody who is in New Jersey, and you said something interesting to me that, I didn't realize, but in order to film in New Jersey, in order to, bring a camera and film at locations in New Jersey, people have to go through a certain venue that a certain gatekeeper that you're involved with.
Yeah, well, being the state of New Jersey decided back in 1978 that we wanted to promote filmmaking in New Jersey. New Jersey was the butt of jokes. We still are a little bit, but we're the butt of jokes for a long period of time. And they also economically needed to raise some money. And so they formed a state film commission. A lot of states were starting to do it at the time. And in 1978, we became operable, the state film office. My story is kind of interesting, like Ira's and also John's. When I was Ira's, yes, sorry. John, his father was actually on our board. I knew him well. When I was 8, 9, and 10, around that age, I had a Super 8 camera. We had sound, and I also had a paper route at that time. We used to have, newspapers used to be delivered, and I knew that to buy that cartridge of Super 8 film, that it was like $5.34, and I knew to develop that cartridge of film, it was like $2.34, or whatever that number was. And the only place that did it, I grew up in Belleville, New Jersey, was Milt's on Washington Avenue. So I would figure out what the tips I needed to make in order to make my films, whatever they may be. And sometimes if you're going to do 3 or 4 reels, that was going to be a little bit more expensive. But so my path was I went to college, and back when I was going to college, film was where it was at. Film was the creative medium. What I mean by film is stuff that was screening in theaters. I grew up with The Towering Inferno, The Poseidon Adventure, Steve McQueen, stuff like that. And I wanted to be involved in film. So at my school, they kept on trying to get me an internship at a cable station. Well, I didn't want to be at a cable station. I wanted to be in some place that was involved in film. And I applied to the New Jersey Motion Picture and Television Commission for an internship. Did my first semester of my senior year there and went back to school. Meanwhile, I'd been working part-time at Pathmark Supermarket for 10 years at that point, and I kept on hounding the film office. John, you keep on talking about that. I kept on hounding them. I'd call them up and say, can we go out to lunch? What's going on? What's happening? And in August that year after I graduated, they called me up and said, come on down. We'd like to interview you for a position. And it's been it was time period. I think the biggest thing I would say is it's just persistence. You have to be persistent. If you're not persistent, somebody else is just going to step in front of you and be more persistent. And if you see sometimes you may say, that movie's not that good or that actor's not that good. Well, they may be there just because they're persistent more than you.
Yeah, learn your superior's job and make them look good. And anticipate their next moves. So if you're on a set and you're an assistant to camera or an assistant to the producer or whomever it is, be present, but think what the next move is. Is that guy going to ask for a stinger, for an extension cord? Have them ready. Always be thinking ahead, and others will notice because you've made their job easier. And always make the boss look good. Give him the idea, her the idea, let it be their idea. And that's super important to support them, think ahead, and like everyone said here, show up early, stay late. The the 10 minutes too late, it means that there's somebody there who's going to take your job if he's shown up earlier and has gone the extra mile. We can't all be superstars immediately. It's being resourceful and creative at that early stage, and then you'll have a shot.
I was going to say, dance off what you're saying, is that really it is about networking in a true sense, and I don't mean that as a bad way. It really is about connecting with everybody and constantly staying connected with them. When I was trying to raise $200,000 for our film, I spoke to everybody that would listen to me. It was I know I spoke to over 600 people, talked to everybody, and when I'm getting in the dentist's office, my dentist was drilling the teeth, and I was talking to him about the movie, trying to convince him to give me some money for the movie. That was all before Indiegogo or Kickstarter, but I was doing everything possible. You want to network with everybody. You want to talk to everybody, and don't let them go. That just becomes part of who you are. You just constantly are connecting with people, because if you keep on doing that, you're going to create a synergy and energy between you and other people that are on that same track you're on.
Stacey, you had a question or point?
Yeah, I'll jump in for a second. I would say that, so when you're going into making, and we make feature films, we also make short films. But so we just finished post-production on a feature film that Dani directed, and I wrote and produced and acted in it.
What's the name?
It's called Landing Up.
Is there a website?
There is a website, landingupfilm.com.
Landingupfilm.com.
You can like our Facebook page or follow us on Twitter if you would like also. When we think about distribution for our film, and right now we still don't know where we're premiering. We've submitted it to film festivals. I mean, we really recently just finished it. But I don't think about it playing in multiplexes across the nation, because this is a $100,000 movie, and we're not going to compete with Rogue One. That's just, so you have to understand expectations and understand what you want out of it. So for us, this movie is a calling card. This movie is to say, okay, look at what we can do, and we did everything we could to make a really good movie. And now we know we made a good movie, so where does it go from here?
With a star. It's important to have a star, and stars are accessible.
And they are accessible. We hired a casting director. This is a really great tip. We hired the assistant to a really big casting director. So the assistant to the woman who cast Homeland, we met her assistant, and we were like, we can't afford her, but do you want a full casting director credit on our movie? And we paid them like $500, and they got us some great talent, people who are on Broadway, who are and just really great people. And we budgeted for that. We budgeted to pay one person way more money than anybody else got paid on the shoot, and that's helpful.
But scale for a SAG actor is about $400 a day. You can get someone depending. So depending upon the size of the budget, $500,000 and below, or $50,000, you can get someone for $100. You could get Meryl Streep to be in your movie for $100 a day if you make it for $50,000 or less.
You could, but Meryl Streep isn't going to do it.
If you have pictures,
maybe if she was your mom's best friend, but even then. But the thing is. Things are more accessible than you think they are, but you're not going to graduate from film school and be offered even a $5 million movie. You need to make a movie that is producible, that you can make and show what you can do for a limited budget. The short film that I just directed, we made the whole thing for $700. Me and the other producer each put in $350 of our own money, which paid for everything. We shot it in one overnight shoot. That went to a great film festival in the city and showed on a huge screen in Chelsea. It was very exciting. And through that, we got online distribution because there was a company there who liked it, and they picked it up, and it's going to be on their platform, and now we're working on turning that into a feature for the $350 that we each spent on that short film. With our feature film, that was a lot more money, and it took a lot more time, but it's about expectations and saying, where do you want this project to go? Especially as we're both young and trying to make it in this industry, and we definitely don't have it all figured out, but main thing is we said our goal was we were going to shoot the movie in 2015. We spent all of 2016 editing it, doing all the finishings on it, and now we're like wanting to get it out there. But getting it out there for us is really like VOD, SVOD. Hopefully, like if we play it in New York and LA for a week, that would be amazing for us. And hopefully we can jump that into making our next movie, which will hopefully have an even bigger budget.
I see it as an equation. Like, this is the resources that I have. This is what I can do with it. Now let's do it. You know, you really have to play with that and to just understand what's achievable and what story you really want to tell. And eventually it's a marathon. So, you know, you don't have to make a crazy, huge movie with a lot of money that you don't have usually in the beginning. You can start by doing a lot of shorts and then get some attention and, you know, and grow and start to invest in bigger projects. But there's no excuse why, you know, why you can't shoot shorts like a few times a year. And start practicing and you know, being more familiar and getting better in that in storytelling.
Bryan, I have a question if you don't mind. So one thing, I mean, I don't know the business that well, but there's different aspects of it. I mean, there's producing, there's acting and all that kind of stuff. And then there's another difference to me, and I could be wrong, which is film versus TV. So how do you decide if you want to be in the business, what part of the business to be in? I guess the obvious thing is just try different parts of it out and see what you like the best. But, you know, John, you seem to be pretty targeted. You wanted news, and that's great. So you knew, but not everybody knows. So some advice on that would be helpful for each and every one.
It's a great question. It's a great question.
I think you go where the business is, and I would not now in this bifurcated climate where there's a million cable channels and so many streaming video services, I would not tell myself of 25 years ago to go to look for a job at a big corporate institution like that. Right now it's all about streaming services for film and for television. The big television networks are suffering right now. People are leaving television network news programming and also primetime programming in droves because what the pattern is that people binge watch on the weekend. Why would we don't have to sit down and watch our favorite show at the same time every week like we used to when Cheers was on or the Cosby Family? I did.
And you knew from the beginning.
Yeah.
But you were lucky. I don't know if everybody knows that.
The difference between TV and film is in my opinion, they've gotten much closer together now. And again, I think part of it is just because the distribution platforms, everything has moved online. And I just wanted to just say in terms of distribution, because you were talking about like getting your movie into a big movie house. I agree. I don't think it's about getting a movie into a movie house. I think it's about getting a movie on Netflix. I just read that Facebook is going to devote millions and millions of dollars to original content. And you know, think about the 20-somethings of the world and what they do on their handheld. They're all on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. So if you can create programming, you don't have to define yourself as a movie person or a TV person. It's just a content creator. And I think that's kind of the way that I look at the industry now. Very different than 20 years ago when you did have to define yourself as a filmmaker or a television producer.
Maybe.
Yeah. Well, I was just going to say, I would say that even on a more micro level than that, I think that you don't even have to define yourself as anything specific necessarily within the industry. Like, I write, I produce, I act, I direct, I edit, and I get paid to do all of those things. And, you know, Dani is a great cinematographer, as well as a director, as well as an editor, as well as a gaffer, as well, you know, like, and I think that our goal really, like, if you want to, you know, speaking to people who are maybe like entering the business, if you want to like make a living, especially at this point in the business, like most actors I know also write and produce their own work now. like the way that most people are like making it. Like I went to school with the guys who, I don't know if anybody saw Big Time in Hollywood, Florida. It was on Comedy Central last season, but they started with a web series, much like the Broad City Girls, you know? These are people who shot stuff for very little money that got seen by people who liked it and put a lot more money into it on networks. So, but these people started out as actors. You know, there's people who are doing that.
I just wanted to say, I think, you know, the point that John was making is that you don't have to look at those traditional roles anymore because it's really about content, and BuzzFeed is going to start doing original content. BuzzFeed, I mean, is doing original content, and so you have to see, you know, if you're going to make it, whether you're doing short films or features or comedy stuff, where can you get it out? Because the ultimate goal is you want your stuff seen. You want to be paid to do it eventually, but you want to be seen, and so you have to look at everything and analyze where can I put that content. It doesn't necessarily have to be in the theater. It doesn't have to be network television, or it could be multiple places. I know some people that are starting to submit to BuzzFeed now to do content.
A lot has been written in the digital age about the kind of attention span of the regular person, and we all know what's happened is that things have been boiled down to these very kind of user-friendly 2 and 3 minute long videos that you consume on Facebook or right, and so it's really interesting. You kind of have to, in some ways, maybe if you're a long-form television producer or you dream of being a feature film producer, maybe if you can just get in there, get in the door. BuzzFeed, I had a kid that came and interviewed with me recently, and he was interviewing for a job at ABC News, but mentioned that he was a big fan of BuzzFeed and was going to get an interview there. I was like, go there. Go there.
Yes,
that's where the future is.
That's right.
So
Another thing was, subscribe to the trades, get Hollywood Reporter, get Variety, read about what's going on. They talk about all of these things, and you'll see people on the cutting edge. You'll see things that we read to know what's going on, so you can kind of get an overview of the business. You can also become a production assistant on a feature, on a film, on a short film, on an independent film. So that means you can like call NYU, you can call Columbia, you can call places. I don't know if this is for you or your children. You know, you have to be aggressive. You have to go for it. You have to have unrelenting passion in this business because everybody wants to do it. Get into an internship program in anything. There are producers in New York and Los Angeles that offer what we call coverage. So that means they are inundated with scripts that come through agencies, through a filtration process. They end up at all the production companies. Young people read those scripts, and they have to do coverage. They have to write about them, the summary, what's good, what's bad. And then, by the collective, if 3-4 people have written positive things, then the producer will read it. So we joke in this business that movies get made by, like, you know, a 21 and 22-year-old college students, because they're there, you know? There's a movie in that. So that's another job. So they're very tangible things that you can do to learn and get a start.
While you're young, you know, do you want to go into, you don't know what you want to go into, so maybe you try out something at a radio station. Don't expect to get paid. Okay, try your hand at radio, try your hand at film, try your hand in news, go into print, whatever it might be. Try them all until you find something that you like or you're good at. You know, if you truly don't know or have a vision right away.
Find out what public access television offers. You know, how to get on that. You can have a TV show on TV in a second if you meet the criteria for public. Wayne's World. Remember the movie Wayne's World? That started on public access. They were talking about New Jersey before, suburban cablevision. These guys, Stephen Beck and I forget
Bruce Beck, Bob Lee, Paul Spahala, Matt Lachlan,
covering Mountain High School football in West Orange on suburban cablevision in 1975. Now they're on ESPN ESPN, Bruce is on NBC or wherever he is. They all started someplace, and it's real. You have to be humble. You have to be present. Don't think you're a piece of crap. Don't think you're a big shot. You're right where you're supposed to be, and just be there and do it, and be patient. It takes time. It takes time.
You may think you want to go into film and suddenly you love TV, or you may think you want to go into news and suddenly, you like film. So you don't know. I think you need to try everything because, like Stacey said, I want to act. Well, she writes, she directs, she produces, she edits, she films, she does it all. Everything except being an agent. So
Go to law school if you want to be an agent.
And then you become more marketable. Ernest, you have done it all from stage to television, Law and Order, to motion pictures, to short films. Why do you take the parts that you take? Like I see you up here in a 12-minute short film. I'm thinking, why is he in a short film?
Well, I did like that script, and I did like the director and the writer. I want to work. I want to showcase myself, and when they are in something like this, I'm happy. And I think you all should just keep going. And if someone rejects you, next, just keep going. Tough skin you need. You need tough skin.
We have a question over here.
She was going to write a story, which happens to be, I consider, I have to say this, but no, it's true, a good story. My question to you is, how does she develop it? Where does she go to develop it into script form, fill in the dialogue? Who can help her with that?
Well, you ought to get Final Cut, right, which is the screenwriter's software.
That's right. You want to get Final Cut.
Final Draft.
Final Draft.
Final Draft. So that all the margins are set up, the format is completely set up, so you just have to conform to that setup. So what, you wrote it, is it just in prose on pages?
Yeah, it's just handwritten, really.
Yeah. So, I don't know, my thing is, once you do get that, tell your story without dialogue. No words, nothing. Nobody says a word. Tell your story in pictures, in descriptions of people and what they do, not what they say. And that's writing a story that's for a visual medium, because it's visual. It's not a play. And then you can begin adding words where they're absolutely necessary. And that's how I learned to write, because one needs to become familiar with the language of the film, watching movies, what do they do to convey certain things, an insert, a touch, a look, not what they say, but what they do.
Thank you.
There's also a website called The Blacklist where you can upload, once the script is done, you can upload there and get some opinions from industry people about it. They'll give you reviews and some notes about how it can be done better, what's the like good sides of it and bad sides of it, and I think it's a really helpful, useful website that you can use.
Fantastic. I want to thank the audience and thank all the members of the panel. David, Dani, Stacey, Mark, John, and Ernest. If you have any more questions, we're out of time because we still have 2 more films that have to come tonight. Colby runs at 7:15, Shortwave at 9:15. The Monmouth Film Festival resumes tomorrow from 11 to 8 with more featured films and concludes with the awards ceremony tomorrow night at 7:30. If you have any more questions, all the panelists will be outside on the red carpet, and we'll be there for questions and pictures. Thank you all very much.
Tell your friends to come to the festival.